Hi everyone, I'm Lindsay the Boss Poss, and you're watching the Mid-Atlantic Esports Conference on Twitch.
Hello, I'm Kyle, and with me this afternoon is Lindsay Poss, the host and executive producer of Meta Woman Podcast. So, welcome on, and how are you doing today, Lindsay?
Oh, great. No complaints today. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be with you guys, and can't wait to get into it.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it as well, but just pretty briefly, pretty broadly, who are you, and really what is the Meta Woman Podcast?
So I am Lindsay Poss. My dirty little not so well kept secret is that I'm actually not a hardcore gamer. I am a hyper casual mobile gamer who got involved in the game space about 2 years ago as a writer and researcher, writing op-eds and trying to get some good research papers out there on the wild world of gaming, how it's affecting the advertising space, what kind of trends we were seeing in entertainment. And from that, I was actually tapped to lead the Meta Women podcast, which is part of the Holodeck Media Podcast Network. And my goal with that was really to give a voice and a platform to a lot of people in the games industry who might consider themselves part of underrepresented minorities. We started with women because that's an easy place to start, but we really want to be a home for folks to learn how to be a good ally, how to be a good friend in the space, and also how to get into the space if you might not be as familiar or as comfortable. The space has been dominated by people who look the same for a really long time. So my goal is to just give new ideas, new perspective, give a voice to people who don't usually get to have themselves highlighted, and just provide a pool of resources for everyone out there to learn how they can improve the space and help other folks in it.
That's awesome to hear. I definitely have noticed, being a caster myself, I've noticed a lot of, these talent announcements come out, and it's like the easiest way I can describe it is like one or two people of color and one or two women, and the other 18 people are white men. So I definitely can understand wanting that and really supporting that. And I agree that needs to be something that needs to be supportive. But in that sense, how do you guys plan to go about trying to increase the diversity of production or talent or whatever it is?
Yeah, so I think the first step in what I'm doing is trying to tell stories that show people that it's okay to be uncomfortable, and that often you have to be a little bit uncomfortable with what you're doing in order to actually make progress. So the main thing that I found to be super helpful is hearing how different people started off in the industry and where they wound up ending up, and the types of environments that got them to that place along the way. I think it's really important for people who maybe are white men. They still have a place in this industry, obviously, right? There's no reason to attack or anyone who has worked hard to get to where they were. But I think it's also important that white men in the industry push themselves and hold themselves accountable to hiring people that don't look like them, and then to taking advice of those people as well. So you mentioned that scenario with casters, and it's completely fine to have that breakdown, but the important thing that you need to do is to listen to the voices that aren't necessarily being heard in that situation, right? And over time, as we bring more and more people to the table who look different and who don't necessarily look like us, we get more and more people to the table with more and more ideas who are going to bring in different people who also don't even look like them. So we just sort of increase all the diversity across the board in the industry. And what that does is bring in all kinds of new ideas, new revenue streams, new opportunities, just all kinds of good stuff. So what I'm trying to really do is tell those stories of how people got from point A to point B in their career, what it looked like, who supported them along the way, and how other people can get comfortable supporting those folks that might be in the same position as my guest once was.
Yeah, I like the sound of that. Just broadening everyone's horizons is always a good start. And just getting more voices, more than just the same voices, is a really welcome thing. What are common topics you guys have, and really what are topics that you're trying to increase out there and increase visibility on?
Yeah, so when it comes to common topics, I do talk a lot about career progression. I find that to be just a really helpful kind of resource for people. Like I said, talking about how you get from point A to point B in a certain type of career. One thing that I'm trying to do is highlight all kinds of people in the gaming space. So, not necessarily just people in the esports side and the pro scene that everyone is kind of familiar with, or people in the games development side that everyone is kind of familiar with, but all kinds of people in between, graphic designers and lawyers and moms who started a business because they wanted something for their kid, and all kinds of people who interact with this industry but might sort of be more on what we think of as the periphery. So one of the themes is certainly bringing people on and talking about the development of their career and showing that it's a very wide array of possibilities out there for how to get involved in the gaming world. The other theme is talking a lot about future tech. I think right now we're on the precipice of whatever the metaverse is. And it's been really fun talking and learning about, what we might see in the next 5 to 10 years. And I think one of the mistakes that we have learned from in past tech is that in the beginning, there wasn't enough voices. You think about the building of social media, it was controlled by very few people who tended to all look the same. Whereas with the metaverse, it's still early on. Nobody knows what it is yet. We don't know what we're doing with it yet. So there's really an opportunity there to start thinking and to start pushing on people's ideas of what they might want to see with future tech. So that's something that I talk about a lot as well. I love bringing on folks who also have crypto and NFT backgrounds. I think that that's, again, one of those sort of periphery parts of gaming, but they all go hand in hand. And it's really fun to sort of dream about what the future might look like. And that being said, I really like to bring people on who are deep in it so that the crypto bros don't get to kind of control everything. We get a whole host of voices on talking about future tech and that kind of stuff, which is wildly popular in the news right now. So yeah, those are two big things that I like to cover that I find just really fun and interesting for the audience.
Yeah, definitely has been dominated. I mean, I don't think you can go the last 6 to 9 months without just hearing about any of it. So it's been pretty crazy with that stuff. But actually tying it in, do you see a very strong, NFT, crypto, whatever presence in the future of esports and gaming and stuff?
Yeah, this is definitely a tricky question because I think enthusiasts will tell you absolutely, and anyone who is not an enthusiast and reads the news will say no freaking way. I definitely feel as if I'm somewhere in the middle. I don't know that we know what digital assets and digital ownership is going to look like, but I think it is wild to shoot that down as a concept because we're so into ownership in the real world and we're so into living online that there's no reason why those two things wouldn't be combined eventually into something that we're all comfortable with and excited about. I also think that there's a little bit too much emphasis placed on all of the kind of scammy and scummy things going on. When I had a guest on who actually noted that this should be a really boring transition. We didn't think about the underlying platform of the web when it transformed from Web 1 to Web 2. We didn't think about the fact that websites went from static pages to completely interactive experiences. We just all lived with it and saw it change and nobody thought about it. And now we have these buzzwords, Web3 and metaverse and crypto and NFT getting thrown around. And there's a whole lot of people with a whole lot of opinions, some good, some bad, some in the middle. But what we don't have is a boring transition. I kind of wish we just had a boring transition. I wish that, 3 years from now, people looked at OpenSea or NFT wallets and thought of them the same way as I think of, collecting Funko Pops or something like that, or supporting a sports team and being involved in that community. But I think, unfortunately, we've kind of gotten off to a bad foot or on a bad foot with this transition. I definitely think that we will all become more comfortable with it in the future. I don't know what kind of that balance is between real life ownership and digital ownership and real life interaction and online interaction. I don't know if it's going to be 50-50. I don't know if it's going to be in favor of, we're all living in Web3 and living online and living in virtual reality. Or we spend 10% of our days on that and we own 5% of our portfolios in digital ownership. And so it's a really small portion. I don't know what that balance is going to look like at all, but I do think that the technology itself is kind of here to stay. And I think it's hopefully going to be a little bit more boring transition in how we actually interact with technology at some point when all the news dies down.
Yeah, it has been, like I said before, it's been pretty hectic, pretty big in the news, and pretty much the forefront of everything. So it's kind of weird that it's gone away recently almost, and that it's kind of died down to the point that it's, I don't really hear about it as much. It's not like opening Twitter and seeing either someone arguing or someone making fun of NFT stuff or arguing for it or whatever. But things have definitely died down a good bit. So maybe hopefully we're getting closer to that quiet transition. But to jump back a bit broadly, diving in more about you and esports. I know you said you were pretty casual compared to other people that we talk to usually and stuff. They're always like, earlier on we had an interview with someone who has been to world championships for esports and has been head first involved. And I mean, just generally, what got you interested in wanting to get more involved as a casual experience? Or from a
I'm married to a hardcore gamer, so I've always interacted that way. But truthfully, the reason why I got involved was totally from a data science and research perspective. I was very interested in the ways people were spending their time and the ways people thought about entertainment, and esports and video games are just such a huge part of that. And I was part of a more traditional world where, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I didn't necessarily think about it or value that in the way that I should have. And I think that there's a lot of big companies, small companies, people out there who kind of thought the same way I did. And then when I started really just doing a quick Google, it didn't take long, I thought, holy cow, like there is just a lot here, a lot to think about, a lot to learn about. And I am a very data science driven person, very nerdy when it comes to that. So I immediately was the one who was, ordering books and reading about it and downloading research papers and trying to figure out any regressions I could run to figure out how people were spending their time. But I find dissecting and analyzing those problems to be very fun. And so I started on that with the company that I was previously with, and just haven't stopped thinking about it since, really. And I've learned as a casual gamer that there is such a place for me, that I am someone who gaming companies are looking at as a consumer and who they are advertising to. And that really caught my attention, because this entire time I thought there's no place for people like me. And yet there's actually a huge place for people like me. And I mean, we just saw Take-Two acquire Zynga for their mobile division. And that's totally more my style. And mobile gaming has always been around. And I think it's just exploding more and more different folks and different demographics first, to then lead folks into more hardcore gaming if they weren't already into it. So once I learned that and got more comfortable with it, I was like, hey, I'm kind of a gamer too. I wouldn't say that just anyone who owns a PC or even a console, but in some way I'm a gamer. So I started kind of pushing on that idea more and learning more about the industry itself.
Yeah, I definitely think, I agree fully. Like the concept of you need to be, maybe not playing every day, but you need to be like full focused on your game and this and that, or else you're not a gamer. Like the line is definitely a big one, and not really one that a lot of people like to budge on. So, but it's nice to hear that even companies are focused on esports and everything, and gaming in general. And I guess that also leads into the next question. What do you think the future of esports and the real world is? And how do you think the two really interact in the coming years?
This is a tough one, and this is so subjective, right? I mean, this is the multi-trillion-dollar question. Yeah. If we're thinking about it that way. So I I am someone who I played traditional sports my entire life. I really, really love in-person experiences. I think the past 2 years have shown the value of in-person experiences quite a bit, but I also think that they've shown what a global and connected world we can have when we're all living online. So I, especially being, data analyst and economics background, I am very hesitant to say that one is going to beat out the other. I definitely think that it's going to be balanced. Again, even as a traditional sports fan, I'm super interested in VR experiences that couple along with sports as a way of increasing my fan engagement. I'm also very interested in going outside and playing said sports, and I don't particularly see that waning in the future. I think there's a hesitancy on both sides to dig in and say, oh, there's no way anyone's going to want to leave their house and go out and be in the real world. Or, oh, there's no way anyone's going to want to spend time online with their friends when they can meet them at the bar and get a real drink or whatever it is. I think that there's value on both sides. I think that the way that we use future tech, the way that we use gaming, is only growing in value. And I think that the value of real person experiences has been a different and slightly more stagnant over the years as we do get more connected. That being said, I don't think it's disappearing by any means. Maybe in 75 years we'll all be living in Ready Player One, but I think at least in the near term, it's going to be all about a balance between those two things. And I think that when it comes to growth, online experiences will have the upper hand. But that doesn't mean that either one is going away.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward. I mean, I know you said companies are starting to really look into gaming, and it's pretty clear that businesses are tapping in. So it's very interesting with the growth of the metaverse, like you were talking about before, the rise of gaming and everything as a thing that people are really investing in. It's going to be really interesting to see how everything really comes together in the next couple of years. But I guess the last question I really have is just in general, gaming, esports, like you said, your connection between your data analyst and experiencing esports that way. Just what is your favorite part about esports that you enjoy?
You know what? This is so dorky. I really, really love following the news. Like I said, this is incredibly dorky, but there is just so much happening in the esports world. And I mean, on every side, right? I don't like following the news about what's going on with huge game developers and hearing the nastiness that's going on, but I love hearing about people who are working to change and working to make it better. I love hearing about all the different company acquisitions that are going down and all the different strategies that are emerging, the new technology that's coming out. There's just so much happening. I mean, literally every day. It's just so much fun to see the industry itself grow and change, and better and worse, because there's definitely been some worse parts in there. But just seeing how everything is constantly, I say taking off, but I think it's been took off. But seeing just the constant, upwards trajectory of people spending time on it, people thinking about it, new things being announced, everything is so exciting. As someone who's, I guess, is newer to the gaming world, that part has been really, really fun. And even just following teams and stuff, getting to know celebrities who are in the space, and even all the new Netflix shows now that deal with gaming, right? There's just every day there's more news and more content, more things that come out that just show just how exciting everything is in this time. And it's been really fun just diving into that. So I guess, just seeing all the different things that are happening every day is my favorite part, which is really dorky, but it's true.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really think it's that bad. I think it's really cool too. The one that I've the most exposure to at the moment is I believe it's Paramount is coming out with that League of Legends show in a couple of months about a League of Legends team.
I'm so excited for that.
I know.
It's gonna be so funny.
I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm hoping it's good because one of the players on the team is actually a pro player at the moment. So
fun.
it's really looking cool because they'll at least, you know, have that frontline experience of a guy who's been playing the past couple of weeks now. But I'm really looking forward to that.
That one I know has good writers. I can't remember who it was, but I know that the people who are working on that show worked on other shows that I loved. So I'm hoping that it's done really well and that it's hilarious because there's so many jokes to be made and like good jokes, right? Not the cheap ones.
Oh yeah. There's definitely a whole lot of material that I'm looking forward to. But yeah, other than that, I think that was all that I've got. So I'd like to thank you, Lindsay, for coming on and having a chat and talking some stuff out. And I will, you know, I'll at least give Meta Woman a listen at some point soon. I've been looking for more esports related podcast stuff and similar stuff like that. So it'll be a good listen.
There's totally something in there for everyone, right? Like fundamentally, I'm telling stories about how people started companies, how people got into companies, what people did in college, what it was like when they were playing games and not playing games and all this stuff. So there's truly something in there for everyone. And I just get to highlight a lot of really cool people who are doing truly neat things. So yeah, everyone, I'm going to shill for a second, but check it out. It's the Meta Woman, META podcast. It's on every podcast network. We were named before the company formerly known as Facebook changed its name. That was just an unfortunate coincidence and announcement. If there's anyone that you want to see on it, feel free to reach out to me. I am at Lindsay Poss on Twitter and LinkedIn. Always open to DMs and getting to know more folks. It's been by far the most fun part of this job. So yeah. Find me wherever I can be found.